guess this is the wrong slot to have because you're just hungry and mostly I would not hold back. Um, okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I think for this, every time when we get into meetings, there is a big elephant in the room. Everybody tries to solve that. I think here we're trying to see how we can have businesses scale to 10x, and that's the elephant in the room. When it comes to design, how do we handle that? I know there is a lot to talk about. What are the processes, frameworks, and there's so many. Once you Google, you will find dime a dozen of them, which you can take up and do what with it, and how do we go about doing this? So let me just try to distill a little and give you an understanding of what we do and how it is going through, and also probably talk about what could be good to really look at how the processes has helped organizations like us, which is large enough, and have the scale of design to take it to that level. Right, so let's talk about the design at scale. So I'm Mohan Krishnaraj, and I guess I have the, okay, I gotta move this, sorry. Yeah, Mohan Krishnaraj, as the introduction was, and I manage the design, all the digital and physical user experience design at Harman, and now the Harman is Samsung. So I work with, I've been working with design for more than 2 decades, and across domains is the experience that we would love to learn. And the learning is great when you have companies like Harman and Samsung, because you get across different domains. Like you get to work with automotive space, you get to work with digital space, be it the large retails, banking, securities, finance, and so on. So with that, let me quickly go through certain thoughts. And this is a book I have published recently, about 2 months back. And Wiley is the publisher. It is available on Amazon. So mainly to break the myth of the balancing act between the user expectations versus what is designed. So always there is an expectation from a user when he comes to any application, and he only cares about that. And how much can we deliver that personalized is what is important. So that's what the book is all about, breaking those myths. And I'm going to talk about a few topics from there too on this. And my next book is on the radar, which is the holy grail of game design. As we all know, that game has evolved a lot, and gaming, some of the experience designs that we do on products is also derived from the gaming world, because that's where the adrenaline rush is being thought through, and how can we engage, how can we make them addictive, how can we use that to the betterment of users, and so on. So that's something as a how game designs have evolved from a very dingy, dark gaming zones to like the Vegas, very bright and wide gaming areas today. So there is, all of us know that unit of power is what, and what is the unit of life. So all of us understand when there's a memory, there's a subconscious memory, and there's a lot of muscle memories. We use a lot of memories in life, and we some of the times we don't even use our brain to do things. Everything happens by our body, by the structure of it. So the unit of life is more defined based on human experiences. So what are the types of human experiences? If I quickly ask you, what do you remember in your life as childhood? You'll probably think of it in couple of seconds. You can think of 2 or 3. I think that is a big memory that is created in life. That is one experience that you will never forget all through life. And when the recall is very quick, because that's what has given you impact. So how do we create more of those? So there is, to create more of those, always the meaningful thing is very different, and tangible experiences are different. What are the chaos that goes in life, and what is the intangible stuff that goes? So the right structure to create an experience is always what is meaningful and what is tangible. So that's where lies where you can wow the person, or where we can actually understand how to excite him and what can reach his subconscious memory. So let's take this example of ramen noodles, and this is something which mostly MITs of the world and Harvards of the world uses on their trainings as one of the corporate strategies. What we can do? What does noodles got to do with corporate strategy? Right? I mean, that's a wonderful thing to understand. And as you can see, it's just not a noodles. It's just a noodle for us. But when you look at, when you buy, the buying purpose is different. There is a famous concept called jobs to be done by Clayton Christensen. It was part of my Harvard learning. So this is a great thing when you understand the job to be done. He simply explains that you can sell a fantastic IoT-based driller and griller, but he just wants to drill a hole. His purpose is just to drill a hole. You might have a fantastic IoT-based functionalities in it, and he could do IoT app-based, all of it. He doesn't care. For him, the job to be done is just, I just need to drill a hole. So if you understand the job to be done, most of the problems can be addressed or can be looked at from the solution standpoint. Understanding or diagnosing the job to be done is very important. So like this, it's a meal for someone from the noodle perspective. It's a hot snack where you can see how a different variety of tastes should differ from the expectation perspective. And study food, while you're studying, you need it as a partner. And emergency food, like I don't get anything, I quickly get only hot water to use this. And a camping food, it stays for a longer time. So there are different purposes. There are different jobs to be done in each of this. So this is what is being trained. If you look at this, how any product can be looked at like this. Any product has different scenarios and different user expectations. How can we look at the product has to enable that or customize that to that purpose? So that's where the ramen noodle comes in. And there is definitely no one size fitting all. There is people who talk about we can just do this and we can scale it based on how it is required, or we can have this interface done, or we can have this experience built, and later on we can scale it. Let's look at it phase 2. Phase 2 never happens. I'm sure all of us in the room agree. Phase 2 never happens. So, but we just have to stall everything and push it to phase 2, but phase 1 is important. How scalable is it? It's only from the experience standpoint. It cannot be technical scalability, it cannot be anything else. Some of the major issues that we have all seen through, right? We have seen through that Marissa Mayer went about, she was fantastic in terms of strategy and having the organization built through and so on. But one major mistake actually killed the whole organization's expectation and her career from that point of view. And it became a big news that she said no working from home. But the same thing could have done much better, could have done with more empathy, more looking at why people work from home, who are all really working from home and who are not working from home. There are different ways of looking at it. So why I bring this point is it's important to understand empathy is everything. If we do anything with empathy, how many of us in the room understand our pay slips? Nobody, right? We just get some credit and some math is there, understand, okay, that's it. Nobody can educate me how is that divided or how is it deducted, especially if we are designers, we get nothing in maths. Right? I'm sorry, some of you designers may be high in maths, but just talking about myself. So we don't get it. Does anyone empathize on me? Does any of the finance division empathize on me? How can I make this better? So empathy is very important. Otherwise, we'll kill the whole purpose. Again, another BlackBerry made a mistake of tenure is what we will give promotions. We don't care how skilled are you, what you can give to the organization, how valuable are you, I don't care. Have you spent 10 years? You get promoted. This went berserk on people. This just employee engagement was terrible on this. So building on, again, Amazon is facing a lot of issues now. All the warehouse employees and everybody else across have been complaining. They are looked at more like machines. They've asked to do certain tasks in certain times. Doesn't matter how they are, what they are in a situation, whether they are in a hospital, doesn't matter. There is tight targets and it has to work like machines. So they're facing major issues on that too. So that brings in an angle of how much amorphous construct helps. It doesn't really. It's no longer, design cannot be looked at from that perspective. There is a lot of intense competition out there. And there is customer loyalty requirement. There is increased customer demand. Expectations of employees is also important. Your first customer is your employee. And shifting technology trends is like random. It's from morning to evening, technologies do change. But what we can stick on to is what is the experience we want to deliver, whatever technology change that comes. And most importantly, design has become the top line and the bottom line influencer for every organization. If somebody doesn't agree to this, they're out of the business, clearly. And everyone has to agree that design is making an impact. And designers today are not just in a small team in an organization. They are taking a place in the C-levels. They are taking a place in the board. So designers, they are CXO positions and they are chief influencers. And so many products, designers make the big call. So with that, you can see how from an aesthetic enhancer to an experience catalyst is what is the positions being grown. And we can clearly see that designers are on the board to make those necessary decisions that, you can have a fantastic functionality, but if it is not, if the users can't find it, it doesn't exist to him. So likewise, it's just not saying, it is true that most brands have started implementing those, and we can see that they are successful brands. For Virgin, time is money. If you can book tickets in 60 seconds was the target given. How did that come up? That came up because of consumers' insight. Consumer said, I can't wait for long queues, or I can't fill up 15 forms for you to book a small ticket. Right? I just need it quickly. And business users are even terrible. They have less patience. So how do you manage that patience level? So that is within 60 seconds was the goal set by the board, that whatever we do, this is our goal. And Facebook went about having, they have a lot of advertisements coming in for them. They're willing to pay lots of money. But Facebook compromised on everything. They compromised on 80% of their ad revenue and said, your ad should load in 4 seconds and it should not be more than a certain number of seconds. So they gave this clear target. And if anyone is below or above that, they would not entertain them into the ad world at all. So they compromised on it, just not allowing anything as a revenue coming in. They would have made much more money by allowing this, but they would have killed themselves in the market. Two Leaves is a startup. I think there was a fantastic move from 34% of revenue up. And how did that happen? It is just that the whole outlook was changed, from the boxing, from the packaging, from the website to the experience. These are some things that we should really note, how it increases the top line and bottom line. And when you're clearly focusing on what users need, how do you get their attention? Even if you walk by the stalls around, what catches your attention? What did you stop for? I mean, they have really done something to think through, that they made you stop there for something, right? So that's very important to look at how designs are impacting. And the structures of design teams within the larger and smaller organizations. It can be startup and it can be a large organization. The structures are very different. This is similar to how we look at accessibility and inclusivity from a long time, right? From a designers always looked at, like, can we do icons? Can we do designs? When it comes after technology decisions are made, can we look at how design can be done? But if you look at integrated is one aspect where, yes, we have the designers working inside the organization, but they're all siloed. We have given one designer for each of the division to do whatever they want. Each module has a designer. It doesn't work that way. Exclusion, we have a separate team. We have bought over a new agency. I know I don't want to mention examples, but we know that large organizations have bought large design firms and have failed miserably, right? Because the DNAs don't match. Designers think different, their DNA is very different, while services organizations are very different. The expectations are very different. It doesn't match. So, but they are literally failing. And segregation, designers are, yes, they are different, they are unique. We give them separate focus in the organization. We treat engineers different, we treat designers different. Yes, all that is fine, but still the DNAs have to work in. So inclusion is the only way it works. It has to be a centralized team where it can manage the design better with a better process. And it has to work with the process of the organization. Each of the projects have to go with the engineering process. And definitely Agile, Google Sprints, everything has become a part of design thinking now. So inclusion is the way. So how do we enable design as a differentiator in every organization or every product companies? So building differentiation into DNA of your organization. How much of a top-down approach is there from design importance? How much C-levels think design? How can we? I'm sure it's not a problem if they don't think, but how can we enable them to think? This is somewhere some of the experts in the industry have to broaden. How do we broaden to the organization? Make sure they talk the right business cases to the product or the C-level or the decision makers, because they need to understand a few things, right? How design impacts them. They need to understand as a business case if the revenue is going to go down if I don't think design now. Immediately they will take off every other important thing and start thinking of design. So that way it is a DNA has to change. It is not just adding something on top. Sorry. So there are new facets of organization. Sorry, I'll drink a little water. As you can see, there is design organizations have been thinking of how much do we encourage the creative abrasion. Creative abrasion is somebody going against the whole organization. They're saying this doesn't work. We cannot look at these functionalities in certain fashion that you're designing. It doesn't work. So how much of it is encouraged? I don't think it is not. It's encouraged much because it's just 1 or 2% standing against the whole thing. And creative resolution is, can we bring in those issues that they are talking about, and can we merge into the actual planning and vision and bring about that, yes, it is a total aggression that the person is showing that this will not work. Can we look at it why it doesn't work, and how can we plan a vision towards it? And creative agility is also how quickly can we make those changes and see if it really works. Sorry. From a design is a very individualistic. It's always been a star in every organization that everybody looks at designers differently, and they're loved people, and they bring in colors, and always the engineers struggle a lot to bring in some functionalities, and designers put some colors to it on top of it, and everybody appreciates them. So that is always there, right? But that has been an individualistic as an individual, more of an individual siloed interface, right? But how can we make it more synchronistic, right? How synchronistic is data, design, and engineering. Well, everything speaks. If we don't have the right data showing up what experience can be delivered, if you know there is a mall and we are positioning some ad there, how much of the heat map do we study? Where all people move? How does males move into which location? How does females move into another location? How does children move into different locations? Making sure that we are positioning the right ad at the right place based on data, the decision of design comes in, and the decision of design should always be the decision of engineering. We have processes where we have sign-offs from a very engineering background, signing off the design, and the designer signing off the final delivery of the engineering. Otherwise, they don't collaborate. Again, we all look at very comfortable comfort zones, peer levels. If we can have people of the same level coming in and working with us, we are comfortable. We don't really challenge that. And when we challenge it, when somebody you bring in who can challenge this, that's when the breakthrough happens. Again, siloed genius versus collaborative genius. Siloed genius is something that people have, okay, I got this idea, I'm going to keep it completely secret, I'm going to make this happen and then show it to the world. Against, yes, I have this idea, but I can collaborate, I can actually bring the technical expertise, I can actually bring the whole other expertise angle to my idea and make that happen. And everybody has this problem of, no, it is his idea, I won't do this. Right? There's a difference of thinking how we can build that DNA of collaborative geniuses are only appreciated, not siloed, even though if it is a great idea. Again, collaboration supersedes altruism, and it's more of, I'm going to pull my skin off for this and make sure this works, against saying, let's collaboratively sort this out. Even whatever it takes a collaboration to make it happen. Focus on the right metrics. So the metrics that we look at is from a very short-term goals against the long-term goals. The short-term goals are always, first and fast mover. We've heard of all of this. Let's be quick. Let's launch the product in 2 months and be in the market. And again, reach and visibility. How much can we campaign? How much can we reach? When do we campaign? And so on. And engagement and advocacy. How much can we engage with users and businesses? And how do we make sure there are big brands advocating or brand ambassadors advocating these? And experience transformation is the long term. So if you look at all of these as a path, the long-term path has to be the experience transformation. From a product very perspective, there's nothing wrong in doing something quick and dirty and getting into the market, because it is also good when you have a smaller user base, you understand and evolve better. But your long-term goal should be that, how do I transform the whole experience from what I've designed to this? Never take it personal and just change everything, whatever the user needs. So we call this as a minimum viable product to a minimum lovable product. So viable product is a very tolerable design. We can tolerate it. Yes, you've done something I can understand, but how do you love the design? When you love the experience is when it becomes a lovable product. Pick any of this complementing where this is all types of prototypes which organizations have done. For example, Dropbox did a video explainer of how Dropbox is going to work, and that's when they built the product after that. And somebody built a landing page, and Zappos was another where this is called the Wizard of Oz, where he goes around in the markets clicking pictures of the products and comes up and puts it on his website. And if somebody orders, he goes, buys it and ships it. All he was trying to do was, if he has a warehouse of cost, can he really sustain it, and will the users really buy? He was trying to do prototyping on these angles. I mean, concierge, we know all of us use Dunzo, some of us at least. Dunzo did this. They started on WhatsApp and now they've built an app and they're growing that way. And Piecemeal is again use Google structures, use Google documents, use Google prototype and do everything. And there is another single feature, I don't know if it still exists. This is our Suraksha from the police department of Bangalore, where you click one click, there is the nearest police van coming in to save whatever the issue is. So these are some good prototyping aspects. So strategic priorities, trying to see how to impact the top line and the bottom line, increasing revenue, decreasing cost, and increasing new businesses, increasing existing businesses, increasing share value, shareholders value. These are all the major priorities for any C-levels today. And if you look at it from a design perspective, we can do this, each one of it, as a separate workshop to them. Right? How do you increase revenue? How do you attract more people? Why are people not buying today? What is that you need to change? Is the product itself is too competitive? There are so many aspects to look at. Right? And again, let's bring back the Zappos example. There was this written page which was designed, and they said, why is written page so important in the organization? Then most people don't want them to return the products that they've bought. But there was very interesting angle where you look at customer who returns actually buy more. So they designed a fantastic return page with all legible aspects of how they can return any product and take anything new. And clarity of instructions decreased the cost. They stopped calling the call centers. Sorry, they stopped calling the call centers. Those are the major cost reduction on ROI perspective. Easy returns increase the new business. And again, return policies increase existing business. So that's very clearly that if you allow them to return the products, they buy more, and the word of mouth brings in new users. I guess this is my last slide. So looking at how do we engage this in every organization, please build a user-centric process and have leadership as user experience or the customer experience guys on the leadership. And absolutely cross-functional talent is required. Just designers can't do anything. Just the data, or like I said, the data design and engineering has to work together. And continuous iterations is very important. How do we look at building business cases which are business viable, technically feasible, and user desirable? These are the three major aspects. If we cover these three, I think the product is done. I mean, it's all about experience end of the day. We have seen this as many examples. People are ready to pay premium. I mean, tell me in this room who will not pay 500 rupees if you're able to get a fantastic internet on for 8 hours flight, and everybody will pay for it. So a premium cost for a premium experience is absolutely a viable solution. People will pay for it for sure, against any discounts. That's about it. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, sure. Any questions? Sure. Sure.
Is always a challenge for us.
Sure.
So you said inclusion is the best way to work with a designer.
Right.
So how do we tackle that? Because the best designer, we cannot afford it.
So as a startup, you said the budget is low, but whatever budget is there, that definitely requires apportioned money for the design angle. That is only to make the product successful. I mean, if you're able to stretch a little today, that ROI is very quick on it. I mean, very quickly the engineering cost can be reduced by the time you build this, because you can go through the easier way of prototyping, testing with users, making sure if you will buy, if those revenues can be targeted. All of this can happen from a very analysis perspective from a designer. I agree, even we are trying to hire. You want a lot of designers all the time. But I think there are different organizations which can help on short-term basis and contract basis, and there are many ways to look at this. You can obviously you can write to me. I will try to give you some names that can help you on a much lower cost on freelancing and so on. Yeah. Any more questions? Sure. Sorry. Can somebody pass on?
Yeah, wanted to understand from your perspective of inclusion, how is the design team structured at Harman International? And second one would be, do you think that organizations at that scale can collaborate with external design agencies also, because there's some value there.
Sure,
So
sure,
just
of
want to
course.
understand how that works.
Sure, I'll answer the first question. So we have called this as human, and it's an agency that is working across Harman. So we were also having designers in siloed, and the CEO also thought through. We all sat together, made a workshop, and understood how we can get the designers in one place. And then we moved all the designers into one bucket and made them as an agency, internal agency. So it's not an inorganic growth; it's organic growth itself. And then we called it as human, and now it is functioning exactly the way each of the division wants. Plus it is using the cross skill, and like hardware software design comes together. Like some of the divisions were only on hardware design, and some of it is all software design. So nowadays there is a lot of projects that comes to us with both mix. You have to design a kiosk and an embedded system also into that. So that way we get both coming in. So that way we are organized centrally, but we are again working across the divisions.
Centrally, not in a central location.
Not in a central location. We call it studios. We have New York, we have, in US we have 3 studios, and in China we have 1, in India we have 3. So we call them studios. Each of the studios work based on the local regions, and they also have a personality. Like for example, Noai will have all connected car expertise. We design HMI dashboards for large, the biggies of the automotive space, and also an app that goes with the OEMs also is designed for that. So the primary skill will be the car's skill, but the secondary will be from the digital aspect, which they can borrow it from any other studio.
Thank you.
Sorry, you had some second question.
Yes, so collaboration with external agencies, let's say.
Yes, we do. And some of the times when large OEMs have their own designers or their own design agencies engaged, we work with them, but we also build a process to work with them. How much is your exit criteria? What is our exit criteria? And make sure that we don't either we own the design or you own the design. So that clarity has to be brought in with the external designers. But yes, we do work with external designers.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. How do you predict design forecast before releasing into the market with or by audience perspective?
From an audience perspective, sorry, can you?
How do you predict design forecast before releasing into the market by or with audience perspective?
So that's what one of the slides that I showed was all the different types of prototype that you could do. So if you have a very quick learning from a product perspective, don't even build the product, mock it, or just have a simulation, give an experience of it to certain set of users. Once you know that a bunch of people love to use that, and then you know this is the right thing to do, and then probably invest. So your forecast on design will be purely on the, like for example, we work with Skype. We are research partners for Microsoft. So we take 5 million users inputs every time there is a small change in Skype. So 5 million users give input to Skype that this is not working fine, I need to change this, whatever. That comes in. So that's a large scale. That can happen even in a small scale with 50 users giving you feedback that this is not right. But you need to have different variances of audiences, not the same type.
Between product managers and designers should function, because I've often come across designers who complain about lack of freedom from their product managers.
So yes, so product management has to contribute more from domain perspective and how much they understand the product well, because they are, end of the day, they are the ones who are building the products too. But designers have to be given that freedom to think differently, because then it's a very, again, that's what my slides was, from siloed to collaboration. A product manager can think, I know the product best, you cannot change anything, this is how the design is going to look. Against, let's see what works best, let's create some mock-ups, let's run it through some users and get a real feedback. It need not have to be a decision of a product designer or a designer himself, it has to be a decision of the user. You take the user feedback, and that's the best to go about. I mean, that can be heard up to the C level, it's not just the product manager's level. Thank you.